Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Rose.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
We're here with another Dexter resurrection theory, and I think what makes this one so exciting in particular is that it's kind of a twofer. It's a way for us to talk about two of our favorite things related to the show right now. Number one being our desire to see Eric Stone Street back as Al.
And then the other is Lumen. If you've been with us for a little while now, you know how much we love Lumen. Season 5 is my
Yeah.
absolute favorite season. I love the Lumen story arc, and I'm a huge Johnny Lee Miller fan. He's one of my all-time favorite actors. I just loved everything about that season. And there's a lot of us out there that have been wanting to see Lumen come back. Like, it felt like her story was over where her dark passenger had left, but there was such a connection with her and Dexter that for me was the most real romantic connection that he has had in the entire series. I haven't felt anybody have a connection that actually felt like love or possible more understanding in a way, if that makes sense. It's someone who saw him exactly who he is, no judgment, but isn't out there just killing willy-nilly for no reason. Also had a code, to so to speak, you know?
Yeah, like for me, a lot of my desire to see Lumen again and just my appreciation for season 5, which, it may not be number one on my personal season list, but at the same time, I am very much with you that Johnny Lee Miller is awesome. This season is wildly underrated, I think in part because it comes right after Trinity, but
Mhm.
one of my real vices is that I'm always down for a tragic romance. It's just whether it's the classic Romeo and Juliet. It's probably why I'm such a Clara shipper for Final Fantasy fans. And it's also why I love Lumen and Dexter, because it's this idea of, I think they both see each other. I think they both love each other even to this day. But I feel like Lumen realized that she had a release and Dexter was just never going to have that.
Absolutely. And while that is the case, that doesn't mean that there wouldn't have been an understanding from Lumen as a partner, knowing that Dexter was not going to have that same release, but understanding why it's there.
Yeah, and I think in this video, there's an interesting path to be laid here when it comes to how Rapunzel of all people could be responsible for finding a way to bring Lumen back, or at the
Yeah.
very least, kind of thematically laying the groundwork for how a Lumen return could make some element of sense here.
Absolutely. I mean, Rapunzel is the only real killer to have gotten away from
Yeah.
this group of killers, and we know where he is, and there is a connection to Lumen in the same place that he is.
All right. Well, we have a lot more to get into here, but before we do, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We are still here delivering all sorts of Dexter goods. We
Mhm.
have reviews, previews, theories every week all about the show. We're really, really grateful that everyone has subscribed. We just made it over
Mhm.
77,000, which is just really, really cool. Lucky number 7. So appreciative.
Thank you so much. We are also covering Alien Earth here, and Only Murders in the Building is coming up. It's a show that we absolutely love covering here at the channel. We also cover that multiple times a week. So hit that subscribe button and stick with us. And if you want to talk about Dexter even more with us, you can head over to our Patreon. I'll leave a link for you below.
Okay, so before we dive too much deeper into the lumen of it all here, we'll acknowledge the news that came out a couple of days ago that Original Sin has been canceled, and it was originally renewed. So this may be one of the most I can't even speak. It's one of the most shocking announcements that I have seen in the TV world in a really long time.
It is really shocking. I mean, Original Sin was great. We really liked it.
Yes.
And it had a really good reception from people as well. I mean, I'll admit, when I first was like, oh, Original Sin, okay, nobody's Dexter except for Michael C. Hall. And then, Patrick Gibson came in. I was like, oh, well, I'll give him a chance.
Yeah.
And he was so good. The whole cast was so
I
good.
know.
It just completely drew me into this show that when it was announced that it was renewed for a second season, I mean, we were so excited.
Yeah.
They told such a great story, having even Brian back. It was just like, oh my goodness, we're going to kind of get to see this period of 15 years where Brian is out there and he knows where Dexter is, but he's not in touch. Like, are we going to see a little more of that? Are we going to get a spinoff? And then the news came out that it's now been unrenewed, we'll call it. It's
Yeah.
been canceled, and it's quite shocking.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like there's a financial reason to do this. The show was
No.
really, really successful. I mean, the two quick thoughts that are easy to come up with this is just like number one, huge regime change at Paramount. I'm
Yep.
sure a lot of you are well aware of that already.
Mhm.
Number two, and this is where it does kind of tie back into Resurrection, is that Original Sin and Resurrection, same production team overseen by Clyde Phillips. Like, if I had to put on a tinfoil hat with some of this, I would just say that Showtime and Paramount were probably like Resurrection's even more successful than Original Sin. We know that there's a lot more story there, and if we do more Original Sin, we might have to wait longer on Resurrection, and we don't
Yeah.
really want to do that.
Absolutely. And I mean, it makes some sense, but really, I just wish that they would maybe hire on some more production to get
Yes.
Original Sin going. It'll be okay. Like, just get someone who really knows this material well.
Yeah, it's a really big bummer. Hopefully
Yeah.
the Trinity show still ends up happening. We'll wait and see on that. But okay, let's get back into Lumen and Al
Yeah.
because the major connection here, first and foremost, is geographic. That if you guys watch season 5 relatively recently or even have like a little bit of memory in your head about it, then you probably know that Lumen is from Minneapolis in
Mhm.
Minnesota, the Midwest, very, very close to Al, and where Al seemingly lives in Wisconsin. As a matter of fact, all you geography nerds, Minneapolis is basically on the border from Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Absolutely. And that is, of course, if Al is telling the truth, we feel that at this point he is.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly seems to have kind of like that Midwestern Wisconsin accent, like,
Right.
unless he's really putting that on. But yeah, I believe that he is, mostly just because of the fact that he threw away his phone because it's like, okay, you probably already know enough about me. You don't need to know anything more. But okay, now we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into Midwest regional history and local
Hmm.
laws,
Yeah.
which is a little bit complicated, but Lumen told this story in season 5 about how she used to go on beer runs to Madison, Wisconsin, which back in the day, well, years ago, things have changed a little bit since then. It was
Hmm.
a little bit harder to get certain drinks on particular
Right.
days of the week in Minnesota. So there was this long time history where people were driving over from Minnesota to Wisconsin to procure their beverages, if you will.
Absolutely. So she has been there and was there regularly enough.
Yeah, and I think what makes it even more interesting to me is that Madison was mentioned, and that was kind
Mhm.
of bizarre because Madison's not directly on the border with Minnesota. So it's like, okay, she's driving a good bit into Wisconsin to do this. I mean,
Mhm.
maybe it's just because that's a pretty big city. Maybe it's because she knows people there. She has some sort of history there. And where I'm kind of thinking in my brain here is that it's been a lot of time since season 5, and we know she went away at the end of
Yep.
season 5. I don't think it's like that crazy to think that she's resettled either in a place like Minneapolis
Mhm.
or even somewhere in Madison where she either knows people or has been many, many times over the years.
Oh, for sure. People settle back at home or near home in places that they're familiar with all the time. We all, want to spread our wings and go out there and
Yep.
try different places. And many of us end up back sort of at the homestead.
Yeah, so ultimately, I think one easy theory to sort of draw into all of this, and we talked a little bit about this in our review of this past episode,
Yeah.
the idea that, okay, Dexter at the very least has an approximate idea of where Rapunzel is.
Right.
Granted, it's a pretty big state, like there's a lot of places to go, but is it possible then that he does go to Wisconsin at some point, whether it is season 2, season 3 down the road, and he just ends up meeting Lumen by happenstance? It is coincidental, but this is television, a world of coincidences.
Absolutely. Or is it possible that by this point, Lumen is doing some sort of job that she's able to sort of look into people and that he's like, you know what? I'm out here. She has mentioned this. Maybe I'll look her up. Okay. She happens to be working for the DMV and maybe I can find out some information this way. That maybe there's a connection and a reason why he would connect with her. But it does feel like because this is Dexter and there is a lot of happenstance where it's like, oh, he just happens to be, out eating with Harrison, and who comes into the restaurant? It's Lumen.
Yeah, I don't think it's like that crazy, especially if a lot of us are going to run with the idea that, oh, Jonah Mitchell could be the Ripper. And we have a video where we've disproven that, but it
Yeah,
just
we don't think
feels
so.
like, if we're willing to buy that possibility, I think this possibility is very much still just as valid. Now, one theory I will disprove here, and by disprove, I mean, I thought about it for a second, went and checked. I was like, okay, this isn't true,
Right.
is that, could Lumen somehow be Al's wife because she has been drawn to dark worlds before, but Al showed a picture of his family back in episode 4. Unless that was a fake picture or AI or whatever, it's not her.
No, it's not her.
So yeah, we can rule all of that out. But I think what's more intriguing to me is the idea that, okay, what Lumen probably knows after what she went through in season 5 is that she's probably got a good radar as to where darkness exists in the world and people who are off center and have some darker persuasions. Like, it is not crazy to me to think of this idea that she might encounter Al through one of her social circles or her family or something like this and know something is off about him, or maybe even know that he's done some terrible things, but she's kind of in the same position that Batista's in this season, where it's like, I can't prove any of it. Nobody is ever going to believe me that any of this is true.
Yeah, she may be looking into it herself that, she has gone through something similar here where she has had vengeance on people that were doing terrible things that seem like nice guys. Like the first guy was like, oh, it's like Dan the dentist kind of thing. Oh,
Yeah.
he's just a family dentist guy, but really he's a horrible person, right?
Mhm.
So she has a radar for people that might be presenting one way that they are good family people, but really they have this really dark side to them. And she may be more on the lookout for it after everything that happened, sees that this is happening in this particular area, that there are women that are getting killed, sort of the same age, same build, ponytail killer, all of this type of stuff, and calls in Dexter and maybe like, you know what, I'm actually going to look him up and be like, I have a problem out here. Are you willing to come out and take a look?
Yeah, and I think there's two pretty interesting schools of thought as to why and how that would happen. I mean, first and foremost, we can all be realistic here and say that, we've looked up people that we've known in the past at various points in our
Never,
lives. No, we would never ever do that. We are
never.
all fully above. No, it's just it's human nature that I think you're going to be curious about people, especially someone like Dexter or Lumen, where they had this really deep, passionate connection that,
Mhm.
yeah, it was short lived, but I think it still burns within them to a certain degree. So there's that possibility. But then there's also the possibility, like, let's say hypothetically, Dexter does get arrested as the Bay Harbor Butcher this season, even if it's brief, even if he manages to still somehow get away. This is going to make national headlines where even if Lumen is just, I don't know, working at a coffee shop, it's going to come on the TV in the coffee shop and she's going to get aware of it that way.
Absolutely, she would.
Yeah, and so it just feels like there are very realistic possibilities that she would know and think about contacting Dexter,
Right.
depending on what the situation is, where she knows and trusts that he will take care of a problem that nobody else will, even if this does not mean that they have another romantic spark, which would be sad to me because I want that. It's just that he still is of use to her, and I think that they do have a capacity to sort of talk things out with each other. There's not a lot of people Dexter can be himself with in this world.
It just really feels like geographically, if she is still in the same area, kind of in the same area, Al is in that same area, women are getting killed in that area, that at some point Lumen might not, might want to reach out to Dexter and just be like, I think something's going on here. I know that you helped me with the problem.
Yeah.
Now there's these other women that are going through this and they need help with the problem. The police are not able to do something. They've had their time to fix this problem. They didn't. I'm calling you in, and puts up the Dexter signal up in the sky for him to come.
Yeah, and now let's get to the Julia Stiles part of this
Right.
because I think, we all love Julia Stiles
Yeah.
as Lumen, or at
Yes.
least those of us who are Lumen fans. I know she's a polarizing character, but, I've had deep affection for Julia Stiles for a long time. A lot of
Mhm.
nostalgic movies that she's been a part of, but I think there's one very important thing to note here, and that is that Julia Stiles is a New York native. She grew up in New York. She went to school in New York. Like, I think it's pretty easy to say she's got deep connections. And lo and behold, this is where Dexter Resurrection films. And I mean, even Peter Dinklage has said in videos one of the reasons he signed on for the show was that he could work from home. He didn't have to go to Croatia or other countries like he did Game of Thrones. Like, that's appealing for any actor, right?
Absolutely. To be able to stay home, close to family, close to friends, sleep in your own bed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's typically a luxury that most actors do not get.
No, and I understand we're talking about Dexter going off to Wisconsin here, but as many of you who are familiar with television production know, Wisconsin for Dexter Resurrection would probably just be some farm 10 minutes out of New York
Right.
City. Like, they would not go far. It is convenient for her. Now, here is the caveat, because many months ago, Julia talked a little bit to Screen Rant, and at the time, this is what she had to say. I loved working on that show. I feel like her chapter kind of closed at the end because she went back into the light. So any rebooted Dexter, I don't know how she would descend into darkness again, but I do appreciate it. And I think by appreciate it, she just means the support that's been out there for her as this role.
Here's the thing about interviews, and we've said this
Yes.
many times over the years at this channel, is you have to take them with a grain of salt. Something that she may have said months ago may be different in season 2 if they're just like, we have the perfect role and the perfect story with this role of Lumen for you. This is what it is. And she reads it and she's like, you know what? I do feel good about that. Or she may already know that there's a possibility that that might be down the road somewhere. They might call her in. Keep it a secret. And that happens a lot where you'll get interviews where showrunners and actors will deny something to the heavens. This is not happening, not happening, not happening. And then it happens, which is fine. I don't mind being led astray in an interview if you're hiding a really cool reveal for me later on. Like,
Yeah.
have at it.
Who doesn't want to be surprised sometimes? Like, that's really, really fun. All I can say is from a story point of view, if, Clyde, Scott Reynolds, everybody at Dexter did not want you to think about Lumen anymore, why would you mention her
I
this
know.
season? It's like there have been things in the non-Clyde Phillips years that Dexter as a franchise is completely thrown out the window. Like, there's no
Right.
real talk here of Dr. Vogel, no real talk here of Deb being in love with Dexter. Like, there are a lot of
Thank
things
God.
that they have just completely forgotten about. I mean, at this point, Lumen has been mentioned on Resurrection more than Aster and Cody, who were a part of the Clyde Phillips years.
Absolutely. If they weren't kind of laying out some groundwork here, it could just be for nostalgic for us who love Lumina, just
Yeah.
have that drop in there. But then you add in how close Al is to where she was. Like, that's not a coincidence to me.
No.
And I'm not saying like this is a for sure, for sure. This is just a theory.
Yeah.
Theories are right, theories are wrong. It's
course.
just fun.
Yeah, for sure. And I just think we both feel pretty confident that we're going to see Al again on Resurrection at
Yes.
some point. And it's
Yes.
just like, if you're going to do that and you have someone else out there who is, while polarizing, beloved by a good chunk of the fandom and
Right.
one of the few people out there who you can kind of constitute as a loose end,
Mhm.
why wouldn't you want to entertain the possibility, even if it's just for an episode or two?
Right.
But let's turn this over to you guys, though. Do you think there is any chance we see Lumen on Resurrection? And if so, do you think it's going to be tied to the Al story in some shape or form? Do you think this is a good way to bring her in? Let us know in the comments, and also hit that subscribe button for more updates. And you can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description, and we very much appreciate your support there. Thank you so much, and we will see you here next time.